right, Student Senate, if you'll go ahead and start finding your seats, please. I now call this meeting of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Student Senate to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
It's one of those weeks.
We'll fix that. We'll now move into first roll call with our secretary this evening, Intern Phillips.
All right. Al-Abdullah? Al-Madani? Beasley? Belina? Betancourt? Bond? Booz? Bowers? Brentsey? Burke? Carlson? Carr? And Clark? Clements? Coggeshall? Colasico? Cruz? Dowd? Frederick? Gallardo? Gillespie? Glasscock? Hamlin? Hines? Huffman? Javin? Jonak? Kelly? Kerprin? Kidd? King? Koger? Kurzweil? Coleman? Lomchek? Lux? Matos? Meinhardt? Moore? Oshner? Orzakowski? Pelton? Payton? Phillips? Rivera? Rodriguez? Reichert? Seidel? Slechter? Smith? Snyder Ben? Snyder Blaine? Spellman? Wallace? Ward Kelly? Ward Shalin? Watkins? Whitmer? And Zimmerman. Okay, we have 40 senators present.
Right, with that, we'll move into first open period. Our first open period speaker this evening is Dr. Carol Shanklin, Dean of the Graduate School.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you. Can you hear me okay? I'll project out if not. Thank you. Okay, probably not. Good evening, everyone. I'm Carol Shanklin, Dean of the Graduate School, and thank you for the opportunity to visit with you this evening. I've been asked to present an overview of what the Graduate School does for our graduate students at Kansas State University, a little about the life of the graduate student, and then also looking at what services we provide for graduate students in collaboration with our Graduate Student Council. And I'm going to just pull this out. Okay, I wanted to start with the mission of, okay, what did I do wrong? The mission of the unit of, okay.
Nope, you're fine.
Thank you. The mission of Kansas State Graduate School is to provide exceptional graduate student services that enhance the professional and career development, support graduate students' research and scholarly endeavors, and create a diverse and inclusive environment that promotes interdisciplinary and cultural interaction, all while advocating for competitive compensation packages for our students. The graduate school's role begins with recruitment in collaboration with the graduate programs. We admit graduate students, so graduate students are actually students within the graduate school that are admitted to a specific master's or doctoral program. We monitor the student's success and degree completion. We work to provide professional development opportunities. We're responsible for the university's review of graduate programs that are reported to the Board of Regents. And then we celebrate with our students at commencement, which is the Friday before the undergraduate commencement, and we continue with alumni relations and fundraising. We do almost everything that the other colleges do, but we focus in on the graduate student population. Currently, we have 3,944 students enrolled this spring semester. That's an increase of 41 from last spring. 68% of the students are master's students and 32%. Some of you had asked last year, what is a profile? So I thought I'd provide a little overview of that. 65% of our students are white, 612 are minority or from underrepresented groups, and 19% are international students. The majority of the students are located here on Manhattan campus, but we do have a significant number, as you can see, 38% from enrolled in K-State Online or through Global Campus, and a small number at K-State Olathe and Salina. We offer 73 master's programs, 39 doctoral PhD, and that's a research-focused degree, and 4 EDDs, that's a practice doctorate. And then we also have 43 graduate certificates that students can take concurrent with their graduate degree, or we can offer to those to non-degree individuals employed in the profession and wanting to get certain certificates like business, academic advising, personal financial planning are just a few examples. So what's the life of a graduate student like? And you could ask the graduate student senators that are here as well to confirm what it's like. But just like an undergraduate, they take graduate classes, but they're different in their approach and the amount of reading and advanced preparation that's required versus an undergraduate. They perform duties of an assistant, whether it's a graduate teaching assistant, which many of you have had throughout your academic career at K-State. Graduate research assistants contribute to the research and scholarly mission of Kansas State University and outreach. Or they may be graduate assistants in student life. The graduate school has 3 graduate assistants. Housing and dining are areas where you most often find graduate assistants. As part of their graduate programs, everyone conducts some type of research or scholarly activity. In the College of Architecture, Planning, and Design, that's different than what it would be in animal science or food science or accounting, but everyone has some kind of scholarly endeavor that they pursue, and this they do concurrently with their graduate classes. They are required, especially at the doctoral level, to present their research or scholarly work at regional, national, and international conferences. That's why the support of SGA is so important towards our travel funds. And then they, just like you are doing this evening, they're engaged in leadership roles at K-State, including serving as SGA senators and a representative on the exec committee. And then we have the Graduate Student Council that we have about 25 graduate students enrolled, engaged in some kind of role in providing guidance and support. Graduate school, through collaboration with the Graduate Student Council, we allocate the travel grants, those that are awarded through SGA, and then we have funds that are come to the graduate school for specific purposes of helping support that. And I think you have had information on that, but we're only able to support about 70% of the students through those awards. We coordinate research events on campus so the students have an opportunity to present their research before they go and present it at national meetings. The examples are here. K-State and research in the state is an important one because the students that present the poster sessions there, 10 of those students then are selected to represent K-State with the other Regents universities at the Capital Graduate Research Summit, which is planned for next Wednesday at the Capitol from 9 until 3 p.m. And then we, in the spring, have our largest event, the K-State Research, Art, and Discovery, or K-Grad. And this is, again, poster and oral presentations to give those skills and present to the community what research is going on at Kansas State University. And then we coordinate professional development workshops, and I just wanted to share a few examples of those that we provide for graduate students. Undergraduates are also welcome to attend these, And because we have so many students, as you saw online, or who have class conflict, we record these so students can look at them. A new one that we're having that you're encouraged to look at is on April 1st and 8th, we're going to have career panels so that students can look at what are the career opportunities that they could do with their graduate degree that is not related to academia. I'd like to end before questions with thank you. Thank you for including the voices of the graduate students through the graduate student senators and our representative and executive committee. Thank you for providing the funding to support travel awards and for the opportunity to share a little about graduate school and to let you know that if you have questions about any graduate programs, you can always visit with myself or any of the team in the graduate school because about 60% of our master's students have at some point got a degree from Kansas State University. About 35% of our PhDs are K-State linked at some point in their academic or master's career. Any questions I can respond to?
Any questions for our speaker? Caucus Leader Gillespie.
You said that you know some of the professional development. Do you know where we can find this online?
Yes, if you go to, and I'll find it for you, but I'll tell you how to get there. You go to the graduate school website, which is ksu.edu/grad, and then go to current students, which is one of our tabs, and go to Graduate Student Council, which is on the right-hand side, and go to professional development. And the ones for this year, academic year, are on that one. In that same area, you can find the archive ones for previous years. So we'd encourage you to use those. They're really to help anyone as they're looking at that. But know that we promote those through our weekly e-newsletter to graduate school. So many of you already know graduate students, so ask them what's going on that might be a benefit to me, especially as you're a senior and you're transitioning to the next phase of your career.
Further questions for our speaker? Caucus Leader Kidd.
Can you speak on the new budget model and how that will impact the graduate school in reference to funding?
Yes, I can address that. Graduate school, unlike the other, graduate school and library are considered cost centers or service centers, and therefore our funding will come through the provost office. We do not get tuition directly back to the graduate school like the colleges do. The colleges get 100% of the tuition for graduate enrollment, and I think it's 75% distribution. The other goes to Central for central student services like student life, all the things that the services are provided, the library, and that includes graduate school. My understanding, once it's fully implemented and everything, if there is an increase in headcount, that we will see an increase to help cover the additional services that would be needed to provide the types of things we do for graduate students in helping staff the graduate school. But so you know, the library in the graduate school, even though we are considered, and we're part of the Dean's Council, and we're considered academic support units for the programs, the model works different for us. We're under the same model as Dr. Lane's units that he works with.
Further questions?
Can I tell them some new graduate programs they might want to look at? We have, starting next January, if all goes well at the accreditation agency, we will have a Master's of Physician's Assistance program here at K-State that we're excited about. We have a new Master's of Data Analytics that started this fall, and it's taking off really well, both online and face-to-face. We have a currently being voted on at the Board of Regents, an EDD in Communicology and Leadership, and we have a new Master's of Science in Architectural Engineering. Architectural, it's a combination of architecture and construction science. So, and it's in the process of final approval. It's been approved at K-State. Now it goes to the Regents for approval. So those are available. Probably our biggest growing program is our Masters of Art in Teaching. So, but again, we have lots of good opportunities, and if you want to talk about that, I'm available anytime.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Moving along with the agenda, I was just informed that Dean DeNoble will be coming a different Senate, so we have that to look forward to, and we'll move into approval of the minutes. Is there a motion? Senator Koger. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the minutes are approved. Moving into announcements for the week. First, the SGA intern coordinators cordially invite you to SG Eggs Breakfast for Dinner Potluck this Sunday, February 23rd from 6 to 7 p.m. in the Center for Student Involvement. There's 2 links there, one to sign up to bring an item and one to RSVP. Second, the University Honors Program would like to host an SGA night for the upcoming elections. Tomorrow, 4:30 at the Honors House. If you're planning to attend either as a presidential candidate or senatorial candidate, please fill out the link provided in the agenda. Proxies for the week are Beasley for Lomchek, Kirkland for Hines, Smith for Dowd, Spellman for Clark, Snyder for Watkins, Wallace for Ward, Kelly, and Whitmer for Bowers. SGA members of the week are the members of the DEI Committee for the support and attendance at DPC-sponsored events. And actually, SG Eggs will be moved to 5:30 p.m., correct? 5:30 p.m. You all should still attend. And the quote of the week is, "Whatever you do in life, surround yourself with smart people who will argue with you." John Wooden. And then Thomas Smith wanted me to defer to him for one time-sensitive announcement.
Hey guys, so Showtimes Magazine is running a bracket campaign of College of Ags on their Facebook page, and we are currently against Texas Tech right now with about an hour left in the polls, and it's 49.9% K-State and 50.1% Texas Tech. So if you guys can go on Facebook real quick and search the Showtimes 8 and go vote for Kansas State. It's a little logo, a shield with an S in the top left corner and a guy with a cow. I also shared it on my Facebook earlier this afternoon. Steve also searched for me. So if you could do that, we'd appreciate that. It's good PR for College Mag as well as to help recruitment. So thanks, guys.
Thank you. Next, we'll move into committee reports. Are there any committee chairs that would like to give a report? Chair Booz?
All right, since there's hopefully nobody else, I just wanted to give a quick report about what Senate Operations Committee has been doing for the past couple of weeks. And so what we've really been doing is discussing more stuff in elections regulations. We've figured out a number of things that we think are kind of awkward as we've been going through this elections process, and we'll definitely be combining, talking to the elections commissioner and talking to the deputy attorney general about how they think about our solutions once we're further along. So we just started last week, for instance. We started working on the group messaging policy and trying to clarify that because it's currently not very clear. So overall, that's what we're doing. And then, of course, we're editing your legislation that you submit every week and making it consistent. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Any questions for Chair Booz? All right, seeing none, further committee reports. Chair Riffle.
Evening, Student Senate. Quick update from the Purchase Fee Committee. We are currently in our review of SGA right now. So if you have any interest in learning a little bit more about the internals of our funds and how we use them and what those goes towards, please join us. Our last meeting regarding SGA will be Monday, 6 p.m. in CSI.
Any questions for Chair Riffle? All right, seeing none, any further committee chair reports? Directors' reports. Elections Commissioner Spellman.
All right, I have just a couple updates. One for everyone that is interested or that is currently running for Senate general election. The Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee is going to submit a Qualtrics survey. When giving my mandatory meeting presentation, said that that would come earlier this week. Hasn't gotten done yet, so hopefully it'll be in your inboxes tomorrow. Just spread the word because I'll send that email through Org Central. Second update I have is with one of the elections resources that the Elections Committee is trying to use this year. You'll know this is pretty similar to what I do for all of the voting work I've done, where we use a QR code and you can scan that to take you to the link to register to vote. This year we're using a QR code to scan and take it to the link to vote in the SGA elections. So that right now is just a general flyer available to use. I will send that out in the same email. So expect that as well, because that'll be a pretty helpful resource to help spread the word and make it as easy for students to vote in next week's election. Last update I have is the elections next week. It will begin next Tuesday at noon, and voting will close that following Wednesday at 6 p.m. So like you've heard me echo time after time, go vote, go Cats. I stand for questions.
Questions for Elections Commissioner Spellman. I do have one actually, Haley. I was curious for the primary election, there wasn't like a CSI table or anything available for students to vote
For voting.
in the union or elsewhere. Are there any plans for any sort of tabling or things like that?
Not in the tables. We're hoping the QR code will kind of help combat some of the low turnout because it sounds like the tables have not been utilized in previous years.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, Chair Booz.
Sorry. Will the QR code have any particular like branding on it or anything, or will it just be the QR code that we can take against other things?
I can send out the QR code as is. I don't think Jackson's in here. Jackson was the one that designed the flyer, so he has information for the election, the link to go vote, assuming the QR code doesn't work.
Granted.
Completely different topic though. When are the primary election results going to be posted on the KCFMU/elections website?
We're also having problems with the website right now, so TBD.
Thanks.
Further questions? All right, seeing none, thank you. Further directors' reports? Intern Coordinator Colburn.
I will not be here during second open period, so I just wanted to say something now about SG Eggs. Sorry, I just really love myself for coming up with that title. But it's really encouraged that mentors and interns come. So think about if you haven't done anything with your intern yet, even though a lot of you have had an intern since October. If you haven't done anything, this is a really great opportunity to maybe text them and say, hey, do you want me to give you a ride? Or you give me a ride and go together. So if you have an intern, we really encourage you to go, but everyone is welcome, not just like interns, mentors. We want it to be an all SJA potluck. That being said, the sign-up sheet, if you notice, has like a lot of things on it. I do not expect all of those things to be brought. I mean, if they're brought, cool. But currently only 4 people have RSVP'd, so I expect there to be more and that you just haven't RSVP'd. But intern program will provide pancakes, both of the chocolate chip, plain, and blueberry variety, as well as hot chocolate. So there will at least be pancakes. Bring something if you want, if you have the ability. If not, like it's really no problem. I'm fine just eating pancakes. So just keep that in mind. And if you have any questions, let me know. You can also text me.
Questions for Intern Coordinator Colburn.
And we moved it to 5:30 because elections meets at 6, and hopefully on-campus allocations will not take the whole hour. But it's like a come and go thing too. You don't have to be there right at 5:30. You don't have to be there right at 6. It's okay. Sorry. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Further director's reports. President Penny.
Perfect. So yesterday I was in Topeka for the Kansas Board of Regents. Some things that they're talking about there is some changes in our student health insurance policies. They're talking a lot about dependents, switching providers, a lot of things that I don't understand, but a lot of students have been on board in those conversations. And then also they are beginning the conversation on what fees and tuition are going to look like, finalizing what their ask is going to be to the legislature, and then and that provides us a platform, and we'll go next month to Higher Ed Day and team up with 2 other schools and go advocate on behalf of K-State for higher ed funding and making sure that the state prioritizes that in their budget. Speaking of like fees and tuition fee strategies committee, we are very fortunate, unlike a lot of other schools that I heard from their student body presidents yesterday. We do not have any fees to review this year because none were brought forward. So that is a big positive for students. So with that, we are kind of changing this time and talking about differential tuition. On Tuesday, Provost Tabor gave a short presentation, and we had a discussion about what differential tuition is, what the pros and cons of that would be, and how that would affect students, faculty, and staff. And then later on, about the end of March or going into April, CFO Ethan Erickson will come in and we'll start our conversation on approving what our tuition ask is going to be so that can be presented to the Kansas Board of Regents in June. Tomorrow, or even tonight, the Alumni Board of Directors are in town, so I have the privilege of serving as a member on that. So if you see some alumni walking around dressed up, please welcome them. And then also next week, you will not see a lot of us for the beginning of the week. There are 6 of us going to Big 12 on the Hill. So we are the hosts this year. Big thanks to Madison Brown, who's now serving as our LD, and Noah Oxner for the work that they have done to make this happen. But pretty much everything has fallen on K-State for hosting in Washington, D.C., all 10 schools for Big 12. So our 2 priorities there are going to be affordability, and under that, we have 3 different bills, both from the House and Senate, that we're going to advocate for, and then also mental health, and there are a few things that we're focused on there. So Big 12 on the Hill gives us the opportunity to go in as the united front on like within our 10 different schools and go and advocate for one cause that we all believe in there. So really looking forward to that. So who's going to be going on that? Madison, Noah, Ali, myself, Sadie, and Hannah. So you'll be left in great hands with Nathan and the judicial branch. But we will get back about 2 hours before Senate next Thursday. So we will see you then, and we'll give you a short update then, and then a big update later. And then lastly, a follow-up from Ollie and I's presentation last week on freedom of speech and some difficulties that we've been facing over the last week with the start of a new student organization. One thing that you will notice in DEI on Monday, we had a great conversation about what some of our concerns were and how we can transform that into some next steps. From there, you may have seen Ollie and I release personal statements that do not reflect our roles as student leaders or do not reflect the views of Kansas State University, but ourselves personally. And then we are working on drafting a resolution that would be official coming from SGA. And like Ollie and I mentioned last week, that does come with a lot of challenges, really balancing the powerful statement that we want to make and how we want to show support for those students, while also following all of those local, state, and federal laws and those set forth by the Kansas Board of Regents as well. So we're looking forward to finding the best compromise and solution there that can balance all of those challenges. And with that, are there any questions?
Any questions for President Penny? Senator King.
Will the policies and kind of like the resolution that we pass out of this body, will it kind of reflect, do you think, the same sentiments that were kind of in Ollie's and your own personal?
It definitely has the opportunity to reflect some of those sentiments, but there's a lot of those sentiments that that we personally shared that are unable to be shared on a platform such as SGA because of our concrete tie with the university.
Further questions? Senator Beasley.
Nope. Yeah, you are completely right, and I do have it in my notes, and I told you guys I'd give an update on it tonight, so I will. So at Kansas Board of Regents yesterday in our SAC meeting, that's the Student Advisory Committee, I brought up some of the difficulties that we are facing here. They have unfortunately all seen the Kansas City Star article and knew a lot about it too, and kind of asked them if they've had any similar experiences. None of them really said they could point to any like specific similar instances in their time at their own universities, but what they did say is that like a lot of them said we have a few like organizations that like personally we do not agree with that are on campus. A lot of their requirements to become a student organization are even more lax than ours. A lot of them, surprisingly, you only need 3 members to become an organization, which is a little bit lower than our 5 to become an organization there. But I asked about how they go about funding their student organizations, if they have anything in there about like not funding different sectors of student organizations, whether that's like political or partisan, and none of them said that they have any of those policies in place either. And so they are pretty much in line with what we are doing at Kansas State.
Further questions? Senator Al-Abdullah.
Yeah, and there's 2 different things that we can go about that. One of them is just like Ollie and I did. Every one of us in the room has the power to use our own freedom of speech to express what we personally believe in. Now, things get really tricky and honestly frustrating once you start adding titles to names, and really what all of our job is here to represent students, but also here in an entity of Student Governing Association. That does restrict what we can and cannot say because of a lot of different issues with the Kansas Board of Regents, the First Amendment, making sure that we do not condemn any other ideologies that are out there, even if they are hateful, even if they hurt. We cannot condemn others' ideologies because us as Kansas State University is funded by taxpayers, and with that, all taxpayers who help fund us come from all different walks of life and share all these different ideologies. And once we start condemning one, where are we going to stop at? It could be us condemning white nationalism now, and what comes next, and that is a line that we need to be very careful about drawing and seeing if that is a race that we are willing to start, because it could have some very serious unintended consequences.
Further questions? Senator Chapman.
Yeah, so Student Governing Association is directly tied in with the university. We are in charge of millions of dollars, literally, and the votes that we make here in this room fund a lot of different areas on campus and a lot of different student organizations, correct? And so since we do have all that power comes a lot of responsibility with that, and with the responsibility comes a lot of risk. So when I talk about our tie to the university, I make that tie because
Time for questions has expired. Senator King. It's been moved and seconded to extend time for questions by 10 minutes. Are there any objections? Seeing none.
And it's very important to make that to make sure that we know there is that tie there, because that makes us liable and makes us and ensures that we also follow everything that K-State must follow as well. And then when I talk about unintended consequences, I'm speaking of litigation that could come from a resolution that condemns different ideologies. And I'm not talking about litigation against Kansas State University or Student Governing Association. I'm talking about litigation against people who are authored on a piece of legislation, or peoples whose names are signed at the bottom of it as well.
Further questions? Senator King.
So are we just afraid to get sued?
Who is we?
The university, Kansas State. Are we just afraid?
I can't speak on behalf of Kansas State if they're scared.
Further questions? Intern Coordinator Colburn.
If we're like legally liable, then why is the university legally liable? Like if I can be individually sued for being an author, then how is the university tied to it? And maybe that's the question that I've always had for general counsel.
Yeah. So if there is a piece of legislation that suppresses someone's First Amendment right, I'm trying to create an example, but none are coming to my head. If we write a piece of legislation that says, like, we do not agree with the First Amendment, and because of that, we are not going to allow these 30 people to ever speak in a public setting on campus because of that. That is directly violating the First Amendment. And so from that, yes, we are linked to Kansas State University in our roles, but if we act outside of the purview of our role, which the case could be made that since we are directly violating the Constitution of the United States, Kansas State University has a right to separate themselves from us, where then we are personally liable for that.
Further questions? All right. Chair Booz.
Yeah, sorry for the late question. So I read through Board of Regents versus Southworth, and I can't find it currently, but I think I remember reading in there that the individual people who were in the Student Government Association, that University of Madison's in that case, would not necessarily be liable, even though the Student Governing Association or the college would be. So yeah, I was kind of wondering where you got we would be personally liable.
Yeah, and so is the likelihoods high that if there was a litigation, they would start pulling names of the authors of the legislation, the people that voted on it? There's probably not a high likelihood that anyone seeking litigation against the university or SGA or us personally would do that because of a resolution, but that doesn't mean that they couldn't. So just in that one case that they didn't do that and they didn't try to make that argument does not mean that they can't. So like I said, chances are not very high on that, but it is a risk that it is a risk that it could happen. Thank you.
Further questions? All right, seeing none. Are there any other directors' reports? All right, next then we'll move into approval of minor allocations. Is there a motion to approve the minor allocations? Senator King. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minor allocations unanimously. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, same sign. Right, the minor allocations are approved. Moving into final action, will the author of Bill 84 please come forward? I have a feeling Nate had to go home and this wasn't quite thought of, so.
Have any changes been made?
No.
Perfect. First right to debate.
All right. So what Bill 84 is doing is it's giving the addition of representing the student body presidents on the diversity programming committee to the responsibility of international affairs director. Same with multicultural student affairs director. And then it's changing some of the allocation of the representation for DPC, who's voting members, etc. All in all, Nate chaired this, or not chaired, but served on the special committee this year and then ended up writing all of the legislation based on the report. I feel very confident in the work that the committee did and their diligence in being sure that the new system for DPC, both in this bill and in the next, are what serves all students' best interest.
Are there any questions for the speaker? All right. Is there any debate in the negative? Debate in the positive? Any debate at all? If not, we'll move to a vote.
Al Abdullah? Almadani? Beasley? Belina? Betancourt? Bond? Booz? Bowers? Brinsey? Burke? Carlson? Carr? Clark? Clements? Coggeshall? Colasico? Cruz? Dowd? Frederick? Gallardo? Gillespie? Glasscock? Hamlin? Hines? Huffman? Javin? Jonak? Kelly? Kirprin? Kidd? King? Koger? Kurzweil? Coleman? Lomchek? Lux? Matos? Meinhardt? Moore? Oshner? Orzakowski? Pelton? Payton? Phillips? Rivera? Rodriguez? Reichert? Seidel? Slekter? Smith? Snyder Ben? Snyder Blaine? Spellman? Wallace? Ward Kelly? Ward Shalin? Watkins? Whitmer? Zimmerman? Okay. Heard. Bill 84 passes 47 to 0 to 0.
Next on the agenda is Bill 1920-85. Will the author please come forward?
No changes have been made. Okay, so for Bill 85, this one is specifically in regards to DPC funding regulations found in the statutes chapter 24. The changes that have been made specifically pertain to the quarter system that DPC currently follows. The biggest amendment being that rather than having like a quarterly end deadline for each quarter, for all, it's the last day of the spring semester. So basically with these changes, it allows organizations an incentive to apply early for their funding, be able to get in. It helps with planning purposes, especially since we're talking about organizations who are applying for $3,000 or more in funding. So some big headliners have been brought in the past, and oftentimes with contracts and planning, there's a big benefit to being able to start that process early, which we currently don't have written into our statutes to allow for. Another change made was in 240201B is kind of like the definition of the events being funded, being to provide cross-cultural learning experiences or education on the topics of diversity, inclusion, or, diversity, inclusion, or socioeconomic status, geographic location, or age. So it kind of just is like more positive framing rather than the dissuading prejudice wording. I stand for questions.
Are there any questions for the speaker? Hearing none, is there any debate in the negative? Debate in the positive? Any debate at all? If not, we'll proceed to a vote.
Al Abdullah? Al Madani? Beasley? Belina? Betancourt? Bond? Booz? Bowers? Brincy? Burke? Carlson? Carr? Clark? Clements? Coggeshall? Colisico? Cruz? Dowd? Frederick? Gallardo? Gillespie? Glasscock? Hamlin? Hines? Huffman? Javin? Jonak? Kelly? Kerprin? Kidd? King? Koger? Kurzweil? Coleman? Lomshek? Lux? Matos? Meinhardt? Moore? Oshner? Orzakowski? Pelton? Payton? Phillips? Rivera? Rodriguez? Reichert? Seidel? Schlechter? Smith? Snyder Ben? Snyder Blaine? Spellman? Wallace? Ward Kelly? Ward Chalin? Watkins? Whitmer? Zimmerman? Was there a vote for Bowers too? Gotcha. And Bill 85 passes 46 to 0 to 0.
All right, will the author of Bill 86 please come forward? Have any changes been made?
Nope.
First right to debate?
Yeah, so like I mentioned last week, we, the On-Campus Allocations Committee allocated the total amount of $10,025 to the various departmental and college entities on campus for the April open house event to use towards prospective students or engaging with families in the community. So I encourage you to vote yes on this bill.
Any questions for the speaker? All right, seeing none, is there any debate in the negative? Any debate in the positive? Any debate at all? All right, seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote.
Al Abdullah? Al Madani? Beasley? Belina? Betancourt? Bond? Booz? Bowers? Brincy? Burke? Carlson? Carr? Clark? Clements? Coggeshall? Colisico? Cruz? Dowd? Frederick? Gallardo? Gillespie? Glasscock? Hamlin? Hines? Huffman? Javin? Jonak? Kelly? Kerprin? Kidd? King? Koger? Kurzweil? Coleman? Lomshek? Lux? Matos? Meinhardt? Moore? Oshner? Orzakowski? Pelton? Payton? Phillips? Rivera? Rodriguez? Reichert? Seidel? Schlechter? Smith? Snyder Ben? Snyder Blaine? Spellman? Wallace? Ward Kelly? Ward Shalen? Watkins? Whitmer? Zimmerman? Okay. And Bill 86 passes 43 to 0 to 0. 44 to 0 to 0.
Was that Bowers that time?
Yes.
Okay, will the author of Bill 87 please come forward? I would also entertain a motion to bulk roll calls Bills 87 through 89. Senator Beasley. It's been moved and seconded to bulk roll calls Bills 87 through 89. Are there any objections? Seeing none, Bills 87 through 89 will be bulk roll call. Any changes been made?
No.
You have first right to debate.
Okay, so this is Bill 1920-87. So it's the trial allocation to the American Choral Directors Association. So they'll be sending a few of their members down to the SWACTA conference in Little Rock, Arkansas. It's a great opportunity for them to meet different professionals in their fields, and it will really be a great way to promote diversity and multiculturalism. So yeah.
Any questions for the author? Right, seeing none, any debate in the negative? Any debate at all? Right, seeing none, we'll proceed to Bill 88. Have any changes been made?
No.
You have first right to debate.
Okay, so this is the trial allocation to the Institute of Industrial and System Engineers. So they'll be taking 12 of their students down to the regional IISE conference. They'll get to see different displays of like lectures of different emerging research areas in their fields. It'll be a great opportunity to meet with different companies they could work at in the future. And so yeah, we allocated them $1,000.
Are there any questions for the author? Right, seeing none, any debate in the negative? Any debate at all? Right, seeing none, have any changes been made to Bill 89?
Nope.
You have first right to debate.
All right, so this is a trial allocation to the Student Finance Association. So they'll be sending their members to New York to do a couple company tours. They'll get to see like JP Morgan, Bank of America. It'll really give the students an opportunity to see what they could, like the areas they can work on once they graduate from college. So yeah, we allocate them $1,000.
Right, are there any questions? Any debate in the negative? Any debate at all? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a bulk roll call vote on Bills 80, 87, 88, and 89.
All right, yeah, so that's yes to all, yes to 1, 2, no to 3, for example, and yeah. So Al Abdullah? Al-Madani? Beasley? Belina? Betancourt? Bond? Booz? Bowers? Brincy? Burke? Carlson? Carr? Clark? Clements? Coggeshall? Colasico? Cruz? Dowd? Frederick? Gallardo? Gillespie? Glasscock? Hamlin? Hines? Huffman? Jabin? Jonak? Kelly? Kerprin? Kidd? King? Koger? Kurzweil? Coleman? Lomchek? Lux? Matos? Meinhardt? Moore? Oshner? Orzakowski? Pelton? Payton? Phillips? Rivera? Rodriguez? Reichert? Seidel? Schlechter? Smith? Snyder Ben? Snyder Blaine? Spellman? Wallace? Ward Kelly? Ward Shalen? Watkins? Whitmer? Zimmerman? Okay. And Bills 87, 88, and 89 pass 48 to 0 to 0.
All right, moving into introduction of minor allocations, is there a motion to consider the the minor allocations? Senator Beasley. It's been moved and seconded to consider the minor allocation. Bill 192090, travel allocation to the Anthropology Club, requested 800, recommended 800. Moving into introduction of legislation, is there a motion to consider Bill 91? Senator Beasley. It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 91. Will the author please come forward? Is there a motion to summarize? Okay. Senator Brincy. It's been moved and seconded to allow the author to summarize. Are there any objections? Seeing none, you may summarize.
So you're only fooling yourself if you don't want me to summarize. All right, everyone, just to preface this real quick, this is Bill 1 of 3 regarding the rec services privilege fee. There's 3 separate contracts with that, so do keep that in mind. So first up is the Recreation Services general privilege fee account. Essentially, this is a operations account for them. If you're looking at the bill, you can see within the second and third whereas clauses, kind of just goes over all the different areas that they manage, including the Chester Peters Recreation Center, Rental Center, and outdoor recreation areas, including the play fields, courts, and also the natatorium. They also do manage the intramurals here on campus, including the challenge course and the indoor climbing wall. So this is a continuance of their current account, which is $1,390,614. Essentially, we felt like that they're utilizing this money well to provide service to students. If you do look there in the online 20, we do mention that last year, so fiscal year 18, there were 18,944 students who accessed the rec or pool at least one time, which is a pretty substantial chunk of our students here at K-State. Also, this overall privilege fee operating fund goes towards paying the student salaries of student workers, which constitutes almost half of the current dollars that we are giving them. Also, one of the things that we discussed during our meeting with their director, Steve Martini, is that they actually sent out a student survey over the past year, and just looking at the results of those, the committee was happy to see that an overwhelming majority of students had very positive things to say about the center and just the different services the rec has. Basically, any negative things were essentially saying that they just wanted more of stuff. You know, they wanted more equipment, more space, you know, more room to be active, which is a good issue to have, I'd say. Another thing to consider is that there are a lot of different variables in their overall budget, considering the new budget model, including some issues regarding state funds. And that's one of the things that Steve actually considered when he was coming forward. He requested this continuance, considering that he may potentially be down, I think around a couple $100,000 due to some changes there in state funding. But that is, he's basically planning to utilize some of their extra reserve funds to cover that over the next 3 years. Yeah, I think that's about all I have on this one. Any questions?
Are there any questions for the author? Senator Beasley.
Yes, that is something that we well, ask Chair Booz about that. That's something we caught in. I don't know if it's necessarily purposeful, but that is something that we're looking to correct.
Further questions? Senator Al-Abdullah. Keep just a question, Mohammed.
I mean, yes, that's certainly quite possible, especially within the next week. Steve would love to come and speak if you have questions regarding that, but just kind of to touch on that point, that is definitely, I mean, if you want to look at all the different services and line item things that they deal with, that's something that I could talk to you personally about.
Further questions? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to consider Bill 92? Senator Coleman. It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 92. Will the author come forward? Chair Booz. It's been moved and seconded to allow the authors of Bills 92 through 97 be allowed to summarize. Are there any objections? Seeing none, you may summarize.
All right, here is the second of their privilege fee contracts they have with us, and this is for their repair and replacement reserve account. And essentially, this is used for smaller replacement items that they have, including fitness equipment that goes out, small building equipment, furnishings, different things like that aren't a major component of the complex, but more minor components. They came and asked for a continuance of their $10,500 allocation currently. And again, this is something that we felt that they, seeing kind of their usage of that and the fact that this goes towards replacing equipment that gets utilized a lot, furnishings that get utilized a lot, and kind of that continual replacement of those so that students can still utilize them and access them. We felt that they were using that appropriately. Also, another thing to consider is that if they are looking to use on any single item that exceeds $30,000, they actually have to come and request approval of that from Privilege Fee Committee. And another thing to consider is that if their account exceeds $100,000, any of that money exceeding that goes back into the debt reduction emergency allocation account. Two things to consider there. So we kind of have a clamp on how much is sitting in that account, but typically with that continual replacement strategy, that doesn't sit very high.
Questions for the speaker? Chair Booz.
So just to be clear, this bill is replacing smaller items, including equipment, and then the next bill would be for the funds to replace like structural stuff, that sort of thing.
Yes.
Further questions? Senator Burke.
Is that line about the $30,000? Is that typical in privilege fee agreements?
So not necessarily in all, but it is typical in a few of our larger contracts. We have similar things within our contracts with the union. Just typically, especially when we have kind of a sitting account such as this, where we put money into this account, it may not get spent, it may get spent, but we also don't want them to just go ahead and spend, all of their account on one item and then come asking later saying, hey, we used all of our account. We need more money to replace things that students are actually wanting. So that's kind of just a check on our part to ensure that they're not just blowing all their money on one larger thing, which is, as Chair Booz said, kind of what we're looking at in our the next bill.
Further questions? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to consider Bill 93? Senator Beasley. It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 93. Reminder, you can summarize.
Awesome. All right, here's the third of our contracts that we have with Recreation Services. This is their maintenance reserve account, and this bill is actually a decrease of that. So if you look at the bill, you'll see that we're moving to allocate them $100,000 instead of their usual $200,000. And essentially, this account is, as was discussed earlier, used for major maintenance expenses. Basically including repair replacement of fixed building items, property, major components of the structure, and structural equipment that doesn't have kind of a regular maintenance schedule. Essentially, this account is used for what kind of those unforeseen expenses incurred by the building. Kind of a typical thing is that we'll say, well, if the ceiling caves in on the rec, this is the account that they're going to go look towards first. And we're looking for a decrease on this account, essentially since That account currently sits at about $1.2 million right now, and it usually fluctuates but floats around $1 million. This is another account where any use of these funds, they actually have to come and request approval of the committee, and they kind of go on a, every couple of years cycle, they'll come in, do a project. They have two they actually came in and requested approval in the past year that are currently on the docket for being done. But yeah, essentially we felt that this accounts kind of fluctuated in this range of 1 million or above. With that $200,000 allocation, it's been slowly trending upward. And considering the list of kind of future projects they're looking at doing, we felt this was an opportunity that we could potentially cut back on this and kind of see where they go over the next 3 years. A few things to kind of keep in mind here is that we do want to maintain this amount close to that 1 million, just so that they do have those emergency funds in case something catastrophic were to happen to the rec complex or any of the areas that they manage. But something that we are considering, something that we considered in our discussions on this cut is the fact that if they do happen to have a lower amount in there over the next 3 years, they do still have the opportunity to come request emergency funding from the Privilege Fee Committee. And so even just in considering those two projects they currently have those funds kind of set off for, those are around $350,000 to $400,000. So in reality, the account's probably sitting at $800,000 with those included, which they may not use all of that money that are for the projects anyway. But if they were to say, spend money for these two projects, they have $800,000, something but catastrophic happens, the roof caves in, they need $1 million, they have the opportunity, they will still probably come and ask for some emergency funding from us. And that's just something that we kind of thought, made sense since they have to come ask for funding in any case. And this would be an opportunity to save students some money over the next 3 years while we're suffering from the current enrollment drop.
Questions for our speaker? Chair Booth.
Did the committee consider maybe like putting a cap on this and then putting the rest of the money in the debt reduction the fund that we used in Wesco?
That is something that we didn't necessarily consider fully, but then again, if you consider the idea that say we do put a cap on their accounts, we put a cap of $1 million on there, well then we're kind of saying, okay, we don't want you to have more than 1 million, but then we don't allow them the freedom to have that fluctuation to say, oh, we have 1.1 million, we're going to be able to spend $100,000, $200,000 on this project that students need. Essentially, we want to make sure that they have a proper amount that allows insurance, but also allow them that flexibility to have that fluctuation. So they can do these, these big projects, they don't happen very regularly. You're talking maybe every 5 to 10 years. And so it's kind of hard to just put a cap on that and say, okay, this is how much you have max at one given time.
Further questions? Senator Koger.
Mm-hmm. 1.2, yes. I don't believe it's earning interest or any. I guess that's nothing that we necessarily discussed within committee. That's definitely something I can find out for you. But yeah, I'm not quite sure.
With any of our reserve accounts, they aren't being put in any account where they're accruing interest or money market or any of those things. Further questions? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to consider Bill 94? Senator Al-Abdullah. It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 94. Will the author please come forward?
All right, cool. So this is the travel allocation to the American Chemical Society student affiliate. They will be sending 2 of their members to their national conference in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and basically these 2 people will be presenting on research that they actually do at K-State. So they'll be presenting research that we do here, and they'll also be looking at different research that's done by individuals from across the nation. So it would really give them the opportunity to see what people are doing in chemistry. So they're only taking 2 people, so that's why we allocated them $200.
Questions for the speaker? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to consider Bill 95? Caucus Leader Spellman. It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 95.
All right, so this is the trial allocation to Pi Sigma Epsilon, which is like a co-ed business fraternity on campus with an emphasis on like marketing and sales or whatever, just for a little emphasis. So basically, they'll be sending 4 of their members to the National Convention in Norfolk, Virginia. They'll have the opportunity to look at like different workshops, different building professional skills, interact with the industry professionals with them, and yeah, so they're only taking 4 people, so we allocated them $400.
Questions for the author? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to consider Bill 96? Senator Clements. It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 96.
All right, so this is the trial allocation to the Sexuality and Gender Alliance. So they will be sending 10 of their members to the Transforming Gender Conference in Boulder, Colorado. They will basically be discussing the issues of gender and sexuality on campus, and they'll be looking at bringing back ways to make campus much more empathetic for all students and basically making students be more informed and make more informed decisions. So we allocate them $1,000.
Questions for the author? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to consider Bill 97? Senator Coger. It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 97.
Okay, so this is the trial allocation to the Vietnamese Student Organization. So they will be sending 14 of their members to the Midwest Asian American Student Union Conference in Minneapolis, Minnesota. They will basically be learning there how to create a much more diverse environment on campus. Also, we're looking at how to bring more awareness to Asian Americans on campus. We allocate them $1,000.
Questions for the author? Seeing none, is there a motion to consider Resolution 69? Senator Beasley. It's been moved and seconded to consider Resolution 69. Will the author please come forward?
Going to have to find it. All right, Resolution 19-2069, support for implementing instant runoff voting for KSU SGA presidential elections. By Andrew Vuz, Madeline Burke, Lily Colburn, Creighton Glasscock, Max Harmon, Casey Kerperin, Matthew Orzakowski, Blake Phillips, and Haley Spellman. Whereas, for some reason I thought your name was on there twice, but it wasn't, so that's good. Whereas the elections procedures of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association should be as accessible, accurate, and non-controversial as possible. Whereas KSU SGA elections have been very controversial over the past few years. Whereas one unique feature of the KSU SGA election system is our top 2 primary for presidential elections. Whereas this system has caused many issues for both candidates and voters. Whereas instant runoff voting is an alternative system for single winner elections where voters rank the candidates on their ballot in order of preference using numbers from least to greatest. Whereas IRV uses those rankings to simulate a series of elections, eliminating one candidate each time until one candidate has a majority. Whereas IRV would eliminate the need for a primary election by allowing voters to fully express their preferences between candidates in the general election. Whereas removing the primary election would remove a source of confusion among students about voting in KSU SGA elections, making it easier for KSU SGA to increase turnout. Whereas IRV would eliminate the need to pull up a candidate for student body president into the general election upon the disqualification or withdrawal of another candidate, by only including the general election and by skipping over any removed candidate in the instant runoff process. Whereas IRV allows voters to more fully express their preferences, creating an incentive for candidates to attract the widest support possible, and allowing more than 2 candidates to have a chance to win. Whereas IRV is increasingly used by student governing associations and other governing bodies across the country, including Auburn University, Oregon State University, Texas A&M University, and the University of Texas at Austin. Whereas if KSU were to implement IRV, it would be the first college or university in the state of Kansas to do so. Whereas IRV is recommended for use by private organizations in Robert's Rules of Order when it is impractical to vote multiple times. Whereas the KSU Information Technology Department does not believe that it will be practical for it to complete the transition to an IRV election system by January 2021, no matter what incentives KSU SGA provides. And whereas it does not make sense to pass an amendment to the KSU SGA governing documents more than 1 year before it would actually be applied. Be it resolved that Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association believes that it should implement instant runoff voting for the KSU SGA presidential elections and will continue to work towards that goal. Section 2, KSU SGA encourages the KSU Information Technology Department to allocate the time and resources to implement an instant runoff voting algorithm for the KSU SGA election system by January 2022. Section 3, KSU SGA should consider exploring third-party options to conduct elections if the KSU Information Technology Department is unable to implement this algorithm by January 2022. Section 4, among passage by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to the 2020-21 class of Student Senators, the 2020-2021 Student Body President and Student Body Vice President, the 2021-2022 class of Student Senators, the 2021-2022 Student Body President and Student Body Vice President, Chief Information Officer Gary Pratt, Vice President for Student Life and Dean of Students Dr. Thomas Lane, and University President Richard B. Myers.
Any questions or corrections for the author? All right, seeing none, we'll now move into second open period. Are there any second open period speakers? Senator King.
Hey everybody, for those of you who don't know who I am, if you don't know who I am, my name's Nathan King, and I'm a senior studying in the Journalism and Mass Communication School over in Kedzie Hall. And I just wanted to kind of voice my support and just kind of appreciation for the Collegians' work with reporting on certain groups that are on our campus. I think that they covered them fairly. I really valued the reporting, and I just encourage everyone in this body just kind of to acknowledge their presence in the room and just make them feel welcome and at home here. I know that sometimes when we kind of are a little maybe not as welcoming to some people when they come in here with our kind of our presence kind of is a little bit intimidating. So just as people from the Collegian come in, just make sure that we treat them kind of, you know, in a kind manner. But mostly just kind of voicing my support for all the things that they're doing as far as, you know, covering groups and holding them accountable. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to kind of talk about that.
Can we give a round of applause for the Collegian?
Yeah. Awesome, yeah. And if you guys ever, I mean, Kaylee and Emily and Bailey, they sit right over here. They're always wanting to talk to you guys. So if you guys are passionate about like something on campus and you feel like it should be in the Collegian, go and talk to them. I mean, they want to hear your guys' stories. They want to tell stories about people on campus. So don't be afraid to talk to them.
Further second open period speakers? Who has the folder? Hand it to Sadie. I did a call for applications and it was a really competitive process, but here she is.
It was a verbal application. Okay, here we go. I wish I'd had time to screen, so. Shout out to Emily and Bailey from the Collegian for being here tonight. Woo! Shout out to Megan Splekel for working so hard and for running such a great campaign. Shout out to Ryan Kelly for his perspective during DEI. Shout out to the Elections Committee for all their great work this season. Not reading that one. It's not bad. Shout out to Carson for baking cookies for travel allocations meeting this week. Shout out to Tell for bringing donuts to the open house meeting. You rock. Senate shout out to Blake Phillips filling in as secretary. Oh, another one for Phillips being secretary. Shout out to Jansen and Ali for releasing personal statements and standing up for every K-Stater. Thanks, Hannah, for being the best speaker. Go Cats. Shout out to Nathan King for not backing down on his stances. Hashtag don't tread on Nathan King. I don't know what that says. No. To the business senators, I wish I could be one. All engineering senators. And nice shirt, Cameron. That's it.
Right. Unless there's another open period, Chair Booz.
Yeah, but I guess this is just adding on to my reading the instant runoff bill. But if you have any questions about the presentation we gave last week, or the bill, or like anything else, I really want to hear them as soon as possible and respond to them. So ask them, please.
Any further second open period speakers? All right, I do have just one general announcement. I didn't give in a report, but like Jansen mentioned, the 6 of us will be in DC the start of next week. So please be especially nice to Chair Booz with submitting your legislation on time so that he's not there fixing it alone by himself very late. So thank you. Moving into reference of legislation, Bills 91 through 93 will be referred to the Privilege Fee Committee. Bills 94 through 97, travel allocations, and Resolution 69 will be referred to both the Senate Executive Committee and Senate Operations Committee. Moving along, we have second roll call.
All right. Al Abdullah. Al Madani. Beasley. Belina. Betancourt. Bond. Booz. Bowers. Brinsey. Burke. Carlson. Carr. Clark. Clements. Coggeshall. Colasico. Cruz. Dowd. Frederick. Gallardo. Gillespie. Glasscock. Hamlin. Hines. Huffman. Jabin. Jonak. Kelly. Kerprin. Kidd. King. Koger. Kurzweil. Coleman. Lomshek. Lux. Matos. Meinhardt. Moore. Oshner. Orzakowski. Pelton. Payton. Phillips. Rivera. Rodriguez. Reichert. Seidel. Slichter. Smith. Snyder Ben. Snyder Blaine. Spellman. Wallace. Ward Kelly. Ward Shalin. Watkins. Whitmer. And Zimmerman.
Did anybody miss their name?
Reichert. And we have 41 senators present.
Right, well, I'll now be seeking a motion to adjourn. Senator Beasley. It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Are there any objections? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.
coming tonight.